Well, look at this familiar face. Who is this guy? I don't recognize him anymore. Jack, what's happening? Great to have you with us. Give us the Edwards family update. What have you been doing to keep yourself busy?
Well, we've been watching my hair grow, and with it the wrinkles. This is such a strange but wonderful time. Both of my daughters are seniors. One in college who just graduated yesterday from Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. So she's glad to get out of Penguins country, but got her degree along the way. And the other one's graduating from high school. And I really feel for all the seniors who don't get to celebrate with their buds. And, they've managed. And there are always people who have it tougher than our family, and that's what we try to emphasize. But I know there's a lot of suffering out there, and I feel really fortunate that I'm one of the lucky people.
Well, we have missed hearing you and Jack on the broadcast. We've missed watching any sport, most notably hockey, considering how well the Bruins were playing. As you think about the amount of time we've been away, it's still almost surreal to me, because here's a team that was playing so well, and it's almost like something that was so unique and fresh and great was just snatched from us. And how does it feel for you who watched all these games in the booth?
Yeah, there was a 3-week decompression period, and I felt like it was a true off-season, but somehow there wasn't closure. And the Bruins have played tremendously since October, and I would really be sorry to see that go by the boards. On the other hand, is it possible that they will play hockey again? I just don't see how they're going to overcome the logistical hurdles, although everybody connected to the game hopes they will complete the season and the playoffs.
It's a situation where everyone has different opinions. I want to know yours. What would you do if you were put in charge? How would you try to get this thing back on the tracks? I like the concept of the 24 teams. Obviously, it's a little bit unsettling because you've got the top 4 in each conference who are going to have to play each other in a weird round robin where you hope somebody doesn't get hurt. But at least it gives us some action. It gives those teams at the bottom end a chance to sort of qualify for the 16-team tournament. What would you do if you were in charge to make this thing work?
Well, first of all, I draw the line at 16, and I would say, if you weren't in the top 16 when the league stopped playing, tough, and do it on points, and that's the way it goes. To simplify things, then I would give every team about 3 or 4 preseason type games to get back in their systems and to get their rhythm back. Tom, the thing that concerns me about the 24-team format is not so much those 3 round-robin games that the top 4 seeds in each conference would play, because you've got to risk injury to get back up to speed and get back to your systems. The thing that worries me is if they go to a straight basketball-style bracket in the playoffs and already prepare those top 4 teams against designated pairs in the play-in. I think that if they allow 12 teams in each conference, they should reseed after they settle that issue and get it down to 8 teams in each conference. So the number 1 team in the East, the Bruins, in the West, St. Louis, would play the last ranked remaining team. Because right now, the way it's set up, if 9, 10, 11, and 12 end up winning their play-in series, the Bruins, who had the best record in the league, would draw the highest remaining seed from the bottom 8. So, what is the reward for 106 points in 5.5 months?
Yeah, I hear that, but at some point there's got to be a little bit of give and take. I want to pick your brain on what you think has been the holdup, because it seems like, hey, here's a plan, here's people who are trying to make this happen, but just like baseball, we're seeing some roadblocks, we're seeing some obstacles. What have you heard, and what have been the holdups to this thing moving forward?
Well, I think they're only at the procedural stage right now where they're arguing about, do we go absolute brackets, or do we go with the reseeding style? There are some major issues to settle beyond just protecting everybody. What happens if 8 players on one team suddenly test positive? Does that team just have to take its lumps, or do you call off the whole tournament? What happens if one player from the Western Conference tests positive and 2 or 3 teams already have been exposed to that guy? Say it's in the top 4 seeds. What do you do then? What do you do about Torey Krug, whose contract expires on the 30th of June? What if he gets a career-ending injury and doesn't get to explore unrestricted free agency by playing beyond his contract term? That doesn't seem fair, right? This is his last kick at the can financially, and so he should be able to maximize his leverage. There are tons and tons of issues to be worked out.
At what point, though, do you have to say we need to work it out? Because you can't just throw up the white flag and say, let's just call it quits. Or maybe you're on that side. Are you on that side that says, hey, let's just wipe out 2020 and pick it up again in October if we can and start a new season?
I think you have to be fair to the players who have that once in a career opportunity. And I don't know how you resolve the Torey Krug situation. How do you make a guy an unrestricted free agent before he goes on playing for the Boston Bruins? You got to resolve that issue. If it takes the league taking out a $50 million insurance policy on Torey Krug, maybe that's the solution. But, who's going to pay the premiums on that? Well, that's why they're negotiations, right?
It's a complicated mess. But let's assume and hope and cross our fingers that they do play. The Bruins are in an interesting situation beyond the Torey Krug situation. They got a bunch of old guys whose window is seemingly closing, and this was an opportunity where they were motivated, they were playing well, but yet you worry like, oh man, how can we keep kicking this can down the road and keep coming back as our key players continue to age? So how do you get them back on the ice, and is it more imperative for a team like that, and will they maybe give a little bit more, knowing that this is an opportunity for them?
Well, the players to a man want to play, and they want to win the Stanley Cup because they truly believe they are the best team in the National Hockey League. And when you look at this 2-year run, it is remarkable consistency. They have won games in many different styles. They have improved since last season. They're dying to show that they can play their game throughout the playoffs, including the clinching game of the Stanley Cup final. And the window is closing. You can't count on the years that you've had from all of Bergeron, Marchand, and Krejci and Rask. You can't assume that will ever be duplicated again. You can hope for that, but you can't assume it. And that's an issue. And I hope for those guys' sakes that they can play a playoff, but there are tons of hurdles to overcome, and some of them are way, way more important than hockey.
Last one I want to get your thoughts on is just the David Pasternak situation, because here's a season that's been magical that in many regards will be kind of lost in the wash because he won't have those historical numbers that people will point to and say that was one of the best seasons of all time.
Yeah, you would hope that he'd get a couple of more games that count statistically so he can get to that magical 50-goal mark. But he has been sensational, and he is as dangerous as any right wing or any forward in the NHL. And I was just watching some old highlights of him and thinking, we have yet to see the best of David Pasternak, although he's been unbelievable. He is aiming toward the playoffs, and he wants that attention of being double teamed and trying to escape the best defense pair on every single shift. And he's looking forward to that challenge. I hope he gets it.
Well, it's a little different for us in Boston than it is for fans in markets like, say, Detroit, where they know it's unlikely they're going to play hockey again. So at least there's a little bit of hope. We are anxious to get you and Jack back in the booth so we can start listening to you call some Bruins play-by-play again. And we miss you and look forward to seeing you again soon.
All the best.